There's not a single weak character. Not one. I am deeply invested in every single character, even the ones that maybe only had 2 chapters. Welcome everyone to Ramble, and today we're going to do a pitch review on the first book of the first Law Trilogy, The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie.
My name's Austin. This is Richard. We had to get our little names out there. Yes, this is a pitch review. If this is your first time here, our pitch review series is where Richard here has read a book because he actually reads. I try to catch up. I'm way too slow. So Richard has read the book, and he's going to pitch it to myself and also you, the audience. And he's not going to spoil anything. He's going to give you surface level stuff, get you interested if he likes the book. And he's going to try to reel you in if he does.
There we go. Perfect said. So today, the entire video is spoiler free. And if you are interested in purchasing the book, if you want to read it, go down to our description below and click our affiliate link to buy the book and help support the channel so we can maybe do this full time.
I think everyone gets us like 2 cents.
Yeah, something like that.
2 cents closer to self-sufficiency. That's so close.
One day we can hire an editor for you so you can actually read more.
See, that's why I can't read it. Yeah. Okay, so let's get right into this then.
Okay.
Who is the author? I know it's Joe Abercrombie, but tell me about Joe Abercrombie.
Yeah, so some simple stuff. He's born in Lancaster, England in 1974. He's actually studied psychology at Manchester University, which, from our last pitch review, made a lot of sense on why he studied psychology, and coincidentally, the character work is really well done in this book. I just
pattern recognition. So
I'm recognizing
psychology makes fantastic characters.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he first wrote this book in 2004, and it was published in 2005.
This book?
Yeah.
This has been out that long.
I know, it's been out a while.
Okay.
And I guess let's get right into the pitch. I could have just read the back of the book.
Yeah.
But I wrote a little something myself on what I think a good pitch would be.
Okay.
So, this series follows a barbarian made legend named Logan Ninefingers as he tries to outrun his violent past and terrible luck. And it also follows a nobleman, an officer who is in love with his mirror, who learns to value more than himself. And lastly, it follows a former military hero turned cripple, and lastly turned state torturer. His investigation takes him to the rotten heart of the government. As he walks slower than everyone else, he also must think 20 steps ahead. And so you follow these 3 characters and a couple other side characters on their journey.
Fantastic. What kind of genre is this?
It is a grimdark story.
Grimdark.
Though I would say it's fairly light on grimdark.
Grim light.
Grim light.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
Grim
did we
light
just coin
adventure.
that term?
Yeah, I think you did.
Are you actually going to compliment me on a term or an analogy or something that I actually said for once?
No. I give you no praise.
You're just going to acknowledge it?
I'm acknowledging it. I give you no praise.
All right, I'll take it. I'll take what I can get.
But yeah, this book actually won the didn't win. It was nominated for a Locust Award for Best First Novel.
Wow. Oh, this was his first novel.
Yeah.
Oh.
And subsequently, a bunch of his other books have actually been nominated and won a few awards. So
awesome.
Very, very talented author.
Okay. Now, this is the reason everyone clicked on the video.
Mm-hmm.
What is your rating of the book?
Yeah, so I gave it an overall rating of an 8.80.
8.8 out of 10.
8.8 out of 10.
I think that might be one of the highest book ratings you've given.
It's a high score.
There's been 1 or 2 others maybe if you reviewed that have been 9s, but that is a very high score.
Yeah.
That is a Richard Rambler rating 8.8.
Oh yeah. The closer it gets to 9, I would consider, if you are into modern fantasy, The Blade itself is a must read. Has to be. So I'll get into a couple of them, but some of my scores are pretty darn high.
Yeah. This is the highest recommendations. You think this book is out of the park? You got to read this thing.
It's a must read.
Okay.
It's definitely the Richard approved.
Yeah.
2 thumbs up, 3 if I had it.
Did you gave 2 thumbs up as well? This is insane.
Have to give it.
Wow.
So we'll get right into emotional impact score.
And just to preface that real quick, for anyone interested in how our rating system works, it will be in the description below, but we're going into category by category how we rate books.
Yeah, down below, if you're interested on details on how exactly our point system works for ratings, it'll be in the description.
Yep. So the first category, emotional impact.
Yeah, so I gave emotional impact a 9.0. So
9.
a solid 9.
Flat 9, excellent. Like
9
out of the park.
out of 10. Yeah,
you love
knocked
this
it
thing.
out of the park. I literally, as I finished the book, I ran upstairs and I just looked at Austin and I threw the book on the ground. I was like, that's how you end a book, baby.
You did.
I
You did.
I was so jazzed. So great emotional book. So,
but a 9.
A 9.
That is, like, even when you come upstairs and you throw a book on the ground, that's usually a Richard 7. That's how much you love this. A 9.
Yeah, a lot of things come together to pull that. Now, the reason why it's not the 10 is I would say it was very interesting in the beginning, but the beginning did not hook me like it did, especially by the middle. And then, of course, the ending.
Oh, so the beginning is still great, but the worst part, it gets better and better, and boom, it's so satisfying.
Exactly. Like, I was able to read the first couple chapters and go, oh, I have to finish this other book. And so I was able to put it down for a while and then pick it back up. So it didn't hook me the same way.
Okay.
But I became deeply interested and emotionally invested in both the plot and the characters' journeys, that I am so curious to see where they go. And so to give me that kind of anticipation, I really have to give it a 9. And not only that, the way he writes is so interesting. It's a very modern way of writing where he teases the reader constantly, where there were so many moments that were hyped up and like it's coming, and he lets it out, and then you think, oh, this is when the moment's going to happen. This is when it's going to this is the big moment. And then he teases you, it's not now. And he does that enough so when it actually does come, blows you away.
Okay.
So honestly, it's very psychologically manipulative. He studied psychology. I don't know. I think I see a connection. But yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotions for certain characters. So there's characters that you really like in the beginning and then come to really detest them and then come to understand them. And like you just go through great revolutions of loving and hating and accepting characters. That's an amazingly emotional journey.
Wow. What's more amazing is anyone watching us for the first time is going to think like you're an enthusiastic, like you like things and you rate things high and you give those 8s and 9s out. You don't. This is praise that is not typically given out.
I really don't have. I have very few critiques for this book.
This nailed it out of the park, and the motion, was that the highest category, or does it get better?
It gets better.
Okay.
Now, I mentioned just briefly in emotional impact, but going on to character score, the Rambler rating for characters is a 9.5. The reason I have to give it a 9.5 is there's not a single weak character. Not one. I am deeply invested in every single character, even the ones that maybe only had 2 chapters.
I gotta ask then, why not the 10?
Mainly because there's a couple characters that are not as good as others. Maybe the history is not as good as, say, like a 10 out of 10 character book would have juggle them so personally where they accomplish multiple things at the same time. Where characters have kind of relations to the world itself. They have deeply connected to each other, and that they're incredibly necessary. That there's no wasted character. Like you could cut one. They are essential. I really value the no fat rule of a book. Like if I can cut something, then it's not perfect.
I'm such a bad questioner. I somehow made you just completely crap on a 9.5. Like you should be talking. Yeah, why is it a 9.5 more so? Why is it so fantastic?
That 0.5 is just Is
You
there a
being-
character that could be cut and folded into something else? Yes. I am deeply invested in that character, so I very much enjoy it, but they are not incredibly necessary.
But the 9.5, I mean, like, why is it that high?
Yeah.
I tried to clarify to get you talking good, and you went back into why it's not the 10.
See, you're bringing out my curmudgeon side, and even I can find something to criticize on my 9.5.
I know, but anything 9.5 especially, like, why? What?
Yeah,
why is it so great? Come on, get that into, why is this awesome? If I gave something a 9.5, I would not be sitting down right now. I would be standing, lifting up the microphone, talking from the table.
Okay. To make it simply, there's every single character was so exciting to the point I've not felt a way with a main character that I've felt a roller coaster of emotion toward. Where typically people like Brandon Sanderson, fantastic character writer, but he immediately gets you to love a character. But then that's about it. Like, I love a character, or he immediately gets me to hate character. There's not much of a roller coaster of emotions on hate and love. Joe, this is a unique time where I've both loved and hated a character in the same book, and then went back to love. That's amazing. And I can actually think of a couple interesting characters, and there's a certain moment that I knew I had to give it a 9.5. Is a character set up to be probably one of the most admirable characters in the story. And at a moment of weakness, does something so detestable and evil, but does show like it was a loss of control, and it was a deep, dark part of him that you see that he's been holding back on and deeply regrets it. And so he's now no longer just this simply good, upstanding character. He's a deeply flawed character. And this author's somehow able to have this character do something so heinous, and yet even afterward, they're not completely evil. You don't hate them completely, you understand it. And it's a wonderful tact to be able to do that. Wow. To let your good character do something evil and not make that character evil itself.
Now that's a 9.5 worthy talk right there.
Yeah.
That was your TED Talk of the day. Let's go. So character's phenomenal.
Yeah. And they all play off each other wonderfully. Mm-hmm. And that actually gets me right into plot.
What'd you rate plot?
Again, 9.5.
Am I seeing something in your eyes? Am I seeing like
joy?
Childlike excitement? Am I seeing, was that a smile? Oh my goodness.
Oh, I know. Oh, the plot really is wonderful.
Yeah.
And the 9.5 comes from the ultimate conclusion. Like, Acts 2 and 3 knock it so far out of the park, I have to give it like a 9.5. It makes me I need to reread Act 1 to see what I was not understanding. That didn't, like, I liked it, but I wasn't so hooked, but it was really interesting. So, like, what was I not getting? Because by the end, it all came together perfectly.
Okay.
So, the interweaving of plot lines and all the different POVs, perfect. Perfect interweaving. Where there's no backtracking, there's no, you're following a different character, and you kind of have to repeat what happened, and something, where stories kind of overlap, so you have to kind of retell a story, but from a different perspective. None of that. None of that is necessary in the story, because you use context clues that you never have to repeat something. But it shifts characters. Great. And it uses the ignorance of the character, but the knowledge of the reader to amazing effect. Which I know happens in other stories, but I just wanted to notice this in this book. That it was continuously set up that the reader knows something from a different character. And then you jump into a new character and go, oh, this guy doesn't know. This guy doesn't know, and it's going to be great.
Yeah. Builds that suspense.
Exactly. And so he does a great use of my favorite mix. Whenever you have twists in a story, you also have to have traditional foreseen plot points. Right.
If everything sticks with the trope,
exactly,
and something goes against the trope.
Exactly. You can't, if everything's a twist, then nothing is.
Yep.
And then every time you go, oh, okay, they're going to subvert my expectations.
Biggest problem with Pariah, if that's still up here.
Pariah and somewhat in Brent Weeks.
Okay.
Though not as much.
Could we have stuck to a book that I read? Did you really have to throw it to a book I didn't read? All right. Okay. I was trying to use my knowledge of the one book I've read up here.
Fair enough. But yeah, this has a great balance of things that are expected and then the twist. So the twist hit harder. That's awesome. A wonderful addition.
Awesome.
And I mentioned before, and this does have to be acknowledged in plot as well as emotional impact, is how the author teases.
Yep.
Teases the reader, plays out little things that are going to come to fruition.
Yep.
And ultimately, it's wonderful masterful storytelling that those payoffs hit every time.
And this is only book 1 of a trilogy. And this is how much you love it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I'm loving this. And lastly, it should be said that the action is interesting. I think there are other books that do action maybe better, possibly.
Okay.
I would say, for example, John Gwen maybe has more, slightly better action sequences. But what I think is praiseworthy is there's basically 3 different styles of writing action in this story because it depends on the POV of the character. And that character's mentality basically changes how fight scenes are written. And I thought that was very entertaining because of the variety.
I wonder how he was able to write this well, especially if this was his first book. He had to have some experience with something prior, I'd imagine.
I mean, psychology major, I imagine he wrote.
Yeah.
I imagine he wrote for college, so who knows?
Fair play. What about dialogue? Let's get into dialogue, Prose. What was your rating of how he wrote?
Dialogue and prose, I think it's incredibly well done at an 8.25.
8.25. Okay.
8.25. That's
a great score.
Very solid. Yeah. That's an amazing score. That's not to be understated. So, I would say if the reason why I'm not giving it the 10s is probably because dialogue is very well done, but I've seen better. And where, for me, the thing that gets a 10 out of 10 dialogue is something that can do more than 3 things in the same line of dialogue. Does it progress the story? Does it tell you more about the character? Does it expand upon the world? If it could do more than those 3
sentence.
A plurality, if it happens a lot.
I just imagine you reading, stopping at the end of a paragraph, being like, all right, what is this paragraph rated?
Yeah. But if you can do those 3 things, especially consistently in dialogue and banter between characters, you're going to get the 10 out of 10. And if you do more than that, then add in just great comedy.
Right, that's your Terry Pratchett.
Terry Pratchett is the master at adding multiple layers to the same line of dialogue. Awesome. It can be not just one joke, it could be 2 jokes all in one. Yeah. Then it also explains the world and gives more depth into the character and then pushes the story along wonderfully.
That was 5 things. That's
I know. More. That's why he gets the 10.
He gets a 10 plus. Wow.
He gets a 10. That's
fantastic.
Why.
So this is still great. Great action. The pacing as well. Did you mention the pacing was very good?
Pacing is very good.
That's more towards plot, but
and
I
would say Act 1
that.
maybe pacing is. It's hard to describe because most people would actually say the pacing is quite quick in Act 1. I would say that sort of slower in Act 1. That's not particularly bad, but that is honestly my bigger gripe. But it's not much of one.
Okay.
It's in comparison to Act 2 and 3 that I'm comparing it.
Gotcha.
But the tone is always different in writing style between the 3 main perspectives, which gives great variety and wonderful. It's wonderful to actually read because it makes everything different. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and ultimately, it's very much trimmed to fat. There's not too many. I can't really think of too many like a wasted chapter or really a wasted moment. So
fantastic.
Mostly trimmed.
Okay. Then what about your final category, world building / magic system?
World building?
Yes.
Solid score of a 7.75.
That seems low.
That's pretty high.
That seems low. What happened to our 9s? We were doing so good.
I know. Well, ultimately, this will remain to be seen in later books.
Yeah.
Let's see. But when I take a look at world building, especially for a fantasy novel, I'm incorporating magic system. The world at large, mainly its history, if it's not explained, is it seem to tease, or does it seem like there is an actual rich history to the world?
Right. So tell me about this book then. What
and
is
cultures and all that. So
yeah, what this book, it does a lot of that well, but just doesn't exceed anything supernatural for you.
exactly, it does everything pretty well, but nothing spectacular. Ultimately, in the world building. So, for example, like I am interested in the world.
Yeah.
It sets out a very interesting thing with like interesting questions. Like, oh, what's that place like? Oh, I'm interested to see where that empire is going. So it sets up some good stuff, but cultures are different. They're not solely surface level, but do not tie richly to a history that you can kind of comprehend. So it's nothing like The Wheel of Time or Tolkien. The magic system, for example, is kept in a mysterious role. It's more of a mystery in this book. I imagine it's dived into more in the other books, but there's not much to judge on. So it's kept at a tentative score. I can't give magic a 10 out of 10 because there's not much of it.
Okay.
It's teased. And I gotta mark it off for no maps.
Oh, you're
Made me
a map
very
guy.
sad. I'm a map guy. For my fantasy world, I need a map.
You know, Dora gets a 10 out of 10 of world building.
It has to.
She's got the map. I mean, that's all you need, and boom, that's a world right there.
Oh no, I think I had to give Shadow of the Gods like a solid point in world building just for the epicness of the map. The map was so great, perfect map, that I had to give it a little bump, in the score.
I got you. That's your thing with world building.
Yeah. But a map not only is fun to look at, it gives you spatial awareness on where stories takes place. It normally can help you tell the story of a history. And if there's a history to the world, that typically means that the culture actually has a reason for being. Why is it this way? Instead of just a surface level of, oh, yeah, in the north, they're meaner. They're harder. They're more savage-like. Instead of just that, they've gone through this rich history of generation over generation. Why are they that way? If you can do all of those aspects, that gets you that 10 out of 10. So it does everything competently. Does everything very well. I am interested in the world, and I want to know more. So give it the 7.75.
And it's only book 1. Could it get better in book 2 and 3?
It could get better. And overall, the series could vastly improve.
Yes.
I imagine the magic system is going to be delved into deeper in books 2 and 3 because it kind of left off that way. But overall, those are my thoughts of the book. Overall rating to an 8.8.
8.8 is fantastic.
Yeah.
That is a read right now. I mean, you're giving this 8.8. I think the last time you gave a book that high was Small Gods. No, Hyperion.
Yeah.
Hyperion you gave a 9+. Yes.
I'll have to look back at my Excel spreadsheet.
I think it did hit the 9. So this is a great entry. Are you going to finish the series and then we'll do eventually a review on the series, you think?
We will. Okay. I just wanted to I stopped. I didn't start book 2 until we recorded this video because I didn't want my opinion to be colored by book 2 and 3. Okay. So I will continue on the series. However, I have to pick up another book.
Yeah.
And so I will be reading it, but probably not as quickly as maybe people would probably want me to.
Got it. Well, we do have some very good news for our viewers and our listeners. Okay. And that is that in the coming month or so, I will start to have a lot more free time. And that means that you won't just have to listen to him reviewing a book. You'll have to listen to 2 incessant people review a book. So I think we're going to have you have some high recommendations for me that I'm going to jump and read those first. Yeah. So we can go into actual spoiler talk and talk deep about the book. And we have some plans for, I'm finishing Return of the King today.
Well, so, I put on your to-do list while you're on vacation that you're going to read the first book of the Murderbot Diaries. That's a short story.
Okay.
I think we'll be doing a video on the Murderbot Diaries.
Okay, and hey, if anyone has any suggestions as well, put them below, because I don't want to listen to his suggestions. Let's be honest. It's Murderbot. I don't know.
See, the reason why I said it on camera is that way. Now you have to read it.
I know. You're sticking me in a corner here.
I am.
All right, everybody. That has been the review of The Blade itself by Joe Abercrombie. Fantastic review. Awesome job.
Let us know what you think down in the comments below, and let us know what your rating is using our rating system. And we'll catch you guys next week. Bye.